for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby, they don't want you to see, but everybody's out to Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and ponder getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
That Dre season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on to the hearse. Party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete, I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping, but I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building, my whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
Grand rising to everybody out there. Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday. And you guys, it is already starting off to be a beautiful week right here in our Studio E. Got to bring in my guy, co-host with the most, Big O. What up, Big O?
Trey Holiday, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
It's good. You know, like I said, they number 2 here. They're actually back there working right now. They're putting in fiber optic cable and some other stuff, bringing the studio online, bring it to life. But you know, it's even this compact setup though. It's a nice setup.
It is. And you know, when you talked about the space yesterday, I'm just like, ooh, there's things that we can do here. We couldn't do in other spaces. It's exciting.
Oh no, we can do a lot of stuff here that we couldn't do in our other. So our other space was nice.
Yeah.
It was just small, and this has more room for us to be able to do some things. All right. Well, welcome to the Morning Update Show. And right off the bat, I want to remind you right now, it's a perfect opportunity for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people who you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. So I want to remind everybody that you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Right there, they've got SoundCloud and links, but you could also go to Google, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you might go, you know what I'm saying, to listen to your favorite podcast. It's no excuses season. Yeah, I was just on a call earlier with Chamber of Commerce. They were talking about the elections and everything. Me and actually Kevin Schofield's. But it's no excuses season. You know what I'm saying? These elections are coming up. A great way to support Black-owned independent media and letting people know how you feel about things. You go to whereweconverge.com/shop and pick up your no excuses gear. Also want to remind everybody that the vaccine is readily available here in the city of Seattle and King County. We've got a link there in the comments for you that are seeking the vaccine, right? The vaccine is out there. All three are out there in King County. It's free of charge. You can click the link, find a location, and in some cases, people can actually come to your home or residence and can vaccinate you there if you're seeking the vaccination. And the vaccine, you know, this is the thing, though, Trey, is that when we talk about vaccine and vaccine hesitancy and all these things, they're saying that the Biden administration very well might say that people are going to need a booster shot in 8 months after they get vaccinated.
Yeah, I mean, this is why when we think about, you know, why we started the Morning Update Show and why folks are hesitant is because we are learning as we're going through something, right? And so there's so much information that we have to decipher through in order to really get down to the nitty gritty, as they say. And so, you know, hey, those booster shots might be necessary. I mean, we're seeing the Delta variant hit those who have not been vaccinated as well as those who have. And again, you know, so many folks are talking about the boost of the immune system being that a natural defense to it all. But hey, you know, we'll see how all this plays out. It's something we're just dealing with day by day.
Yeah, I mean, but these are the kind of things like when news like that comes out, that's when you got the people who are vaccine hesitant, you know, they take a pause like, oh, word, you know, or like that cruise ship that everybody on the ship was vaccinated, but some people still got COVID. And these are important things to talk through. And actually, I talked to the people at Public Health yesterday, and we're looking to have Dr. Duchin here in studio in probably about 2 weeks to really kind of talk about these kind of things and everything else. We just want to be able to be a platform for people to have the best informed information around this vaccine. We know that the Black community, we often suffer from lack of information or willful and intentional misinformation.
Absolutely, man. I mean, this is why, you know, I know that, you know, folks have been talking about this. And it's really interesting to see the wave of conversation that's happening throughout community, because at one point folks were really open in talking about it. And now when they're dealing with certain scrutinies, you're starting to see people kind of shut down from sharing some of their opinions. So it's interesting how these waves are coming through.
Yeah, no, definitely. And speaking of the vaccine, we've got right here our vaccine stories up on our website, whereweconverge.com/post. And, you know, we're talking to people who got vaccinated and people who are hesitant for vaccination. We want to be able to continue to share that information with the public and be able to create space to have conversations around the vaccine and vaccine hesitancy. All right. Our campaign is still underway. We need to get Jake Gravrock to 10,000.
Unbelievable, man. He's the best player in the world. I'm glad he's on my side. And going into a game 7, you want the best player in the world on your side.
The backyard got mountains in it. I do not move until my accountant finish. Big mason jars, each one an ounce.
Absolutely. You guys hop on over to Instagram right now to your IG and click on walk.into.the.light. Go ahead and follow our guy, Jake Gravrock. Let's get him over that benchmark, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, this is something interesting I just saw there in the comments during that brief interlude right there. And someone was like, man, how come no one ever talks about the survivors on COVID? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's a 1% or something like that death rate. You know, majority of people actually do live. And yeah, I mean, that is something that, you know, I mean, we don't necessarily hit on, a lot of other people don't ever start to hit on, but we are in the comments. And so I saw that in the comments. I think the thing is for us though, and especially being in Black media, that, and COVID altogether has just torn up as far as Black community. Black businesses, the first ones to be out of business, hit disproportionately. There's another thing that's great, I think came out today that talked about even the spending around COVID and healthcare is disproportional. You know what I'm saying? Against Black people, the death rate of COVID, it hits Black people. And so, there are a lot of people, Black people, who have survived COVID and moved on and everything else. But, in every aspect around COVID, man, we've been disproportionately hit.
No, I mean, this is absolutely true, but it also goes to a lot of the stigma that's built within the system, right? And so when we talk about some of the reasons why, folks are hesitant and they say, well, at first it came out and it was like, it seemed like it was going to rich white neighborhoods first. And, they weren't, caring for Black communities and those who have disproportionately had to suffer through COVID and COVID deaths. But then when they put an intentional emphasis on those communities like Black communities or Latino or indigenous communities, then folks go, wait a minute, we're not used to that because they have never done that. So it's such a dichotomy of how all of this is hitting all of us. And you're right, that, that's no surprise to probably anybody in the Black community, because we've dealt with that disproportionality since really the inception of this country.
Yeah, I mean, it just is everything. It's just disproportionately impacting our community, Native community, Hispanic communities, and everything else. Yeah. So definitely want to acknowledge that a lot of people get COVID and live. And I wish that's where we could put a lot of our resources and stories about that. But man, I think what's important in our community, that the service that we can provide is, resources for people who's to put the actual infection of the disease to the side, or the virus to the side. People have been impacted in their business, how their children are impacted in schooling and things like that. And then also, of course, the health ramifications around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else we got here? Oh, today, happy birthday, Marcus Garvey. Today, Marcus Garvey Day, Marcus Garvey celebration going on up there at the Liberty Bank building. One of your spots from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. They're celebrating Marcus Garvey Day.
I love this because the messaging that we are able to impart on ourselves and on our daily experience from a historical perspective, man, Marcus Garvey is one at the top of that list for so many folks in the Black community. I mean, his entire modicum of being connected to community was about empowering the self and really identifying the greatness that is within all of us. And so I love that we are able to celebrate him today, and it's happening right there at LBV.
Yeah, well, I'm all for I'm big on. It's funny because there's the elections, and it's a lot of people who think that, and the message is the message. I'm not knocking anybody's message, but that it's like government is the solution to all problems. And really, man, for me, Black economic empowerment and us realizing that government's not going to solve we have to save ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Is really the message of where I'm at. If we have an expectation for these people a few blocks from here in City Hall or down in Olympia to actually save us, then man, we're already lost. And I think that having a fundamental understanding that, our power really comes from economics and economic drivers and things like that. It was not to get off topic, but hey, I was having an interesting conversation with Council Member Deborah Juarez, right? And we talked about the Tulalip Nation. And I talked about how back in high school, I'd go up there to Tulalip, and it was a whole nother world. It was the res, and the Tulalips, for the most part, was getting pushed around by everybody in Snohomish County, getting pushed around by the sheriff, by the municipality, by everything. My friend, go mess with them Tulalips now. You know what I'm saying? After years, the casino came in and everything else. They're an economic powerhouse. People don't move in that county without talking to them. The Tulalip Nation is included in regional conversations now around Puget Sound and everything else. Because one thing about America is America, no matter what, respects economic power and economic influence. And until we can get to a point in our community, You know what I'm saying? When we have economic drivers, we will continue to get looked over, and we'll continue to get handouts, you know, and to pacify us and handouts. And so it's like us creating an economic situation for ourselves where we're not dependent upon government. I think government definitely has a role to play in making sure everything is fair. You know what I'm saying? Making sure it's fair, making sure in doing its part and everything else. But government ain't coming to save us, Trey Holiday.
No, absolutely they're not. And I think that there's so much of a resurgence of these ideals now happening in community and sprouting out in different ways. When I think about these Black melanated markets, right? And just the fact that we're going to do it on our own. We're going to go to a park. We're going to set up vendor booths. You know, we're going to open it up for folks to be able to engage with these amazing vendors. We're going to make sure that we circulate Black dollars, that we support each other's businesses. This is really how Black folks had their own towns in the 20s. And I utilize that. And when I'm talking about this economic mobility and what it really looks like is because when we do for self, we realize that there's something inside of us that can allow us to thrive. That's what thriving is. So you're absolutely right about the ways that this country respects and responds to economic drivers. And I agree with you 100%, man. We really do have to save ourselves. It goes right back to the main messaging of Marcus Garvey. Was really we have to be doing for ourselves in that regard, y'all. And for those of you that are out there that have an idea, that think that you want to do something, try it out. You never know that might be the thing that you needed to bring into the world.
Government is not going to save us. Beware of any candidate who tells you that they can legislate all the troubles of your life away if you give them your vote. You know what I'm saying? We need to be talking about candidates who know how to empower and inspire and be able to deliver economic drivers and ideas and things like that, not candidates that want to placate us and be like, oh, government's going to make it all good. So clearly I can go on and on. I mean, I feel passionate about that because these guys, a lot of the electeds play us for suckers. You know what I'm saying? They come with all their hyperbolic talk and trying to drop a bomb on the Black community. Oh, boss, you know what I'm saying? Who we need to be mad at now, boss? You know what I'm saying? Elected official so-and-so said this and that. Let's go activate. And it's like, man, we tired of that. You know what I'm saying? That's not what's happening. You know, I mean, man, come with some real solutions. Don't come with this, oh, I'm here with government and a checkbook. You're just here to save you, man.
No, I this is something both of us are passionate about.
We might as well fold this up now and have our conversation.
Well, the truth of the matter is that, it's deserving on this day when we're talking about celebrating somebody like Marcus Garvey, but also when we're talking about celebrating Marcus Garvey in Converge Media Studios, that is Black owned, independently owned. When we talk about the reason why we are utilizing you guys' support and need y'all support is because we are independent. Okay. Do you know and understand what that means when you have somebody like a Connie Thompson that shared the same space and a Jesse Jones that shared the same space to understand and identify the brilliance happening at Converge Media as a Black owned independent media company. So we are in the thick of that when we talk about it, man. Come on now.
I'm going to tell you this though, since you brought Converge into the conversation,
come on.
I will tell you this. That we ain't waiting for no damn handout from the government to get out there. Yeah. With nothing. We hit the streets. And that's the whole point. What if we was waiting for a grant and we were sitting here waiting for a grant and being like, well, if there's proper funding of independent Black media, we could go out and to cover the Seattle protest and be able to, nah, man, you know what I'm saying? We ain't waiting for no government.
No.
Government has a role to play. And one of the roles to play is really fairness and equality and access to services and things like that. But I mean, that's real deal. Exactly what you said is that like, we ain't waiting.
No, we're not. And it also really goes to how tight-knit some of us are in community when we talk about these relationships. You know what I mean? Omari was able to pick up a phone, call a few folks, call up Carlos Imani, call up Daryl, over there with Dancing in the Rain Media. Call me up like, Trey, what's up? We need to get this done. That's really also a testament to us building relationships in community. And when we utilize those relationships, honestly, we understand that we create the fabric. We create the weave of what that quilt looks like, right? At the end of the day, it's those relationships that we're able to say. People understood the value of it from the gate, bro.
Let me tell you something else. We put a lot of money and resource into trying to activate around problems. But how much money goes into activating brilliance? Because what you just said right there was like, yo, look at that brilliance that's in our community. Picking up a phone, Daryl Glover, Carlos Imani, Trey Holiday, Dirty Hands. You know what I'm saying? I mean, our brilliance is in our community. And this is something else people need to think about, how much investment goes into our brilliance and our greatness. It's a lot of investment that goes into problems, true. But look if people actually invested in the brilliance in our community. Look at the jobs they create every day here on set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Steve is missing today. There's 7 people. Imagine, you know what I'm saying? If we invest, and this is just a small media operation, our community is brilliant. Our community is awesome. But you know, all of our investment and energy goes into problems in our community, which need to be addressed. But imagine if we just put a percentile into boosting the brilliance in our community and empowering the brilliance and the entrepreneurs and amazing people. There's so many people who come and they see the stuff that we do on Converge, and in the best way, Black people, man, I ain't know Black folk could do this. I ain't know Black folk. And I got to tell them, like, yeah, we've been out here in the community for years. There's brilliant Black people. We was just some people who got the crack and kicked in the whole door. You know what I'm saying? But they out there. You feel me? It's just the way that even we approach to solving problems in the Black community from like the elected side and in a standard side is let's put money in the problems. Problems do need to be addressed. But man, why isn't it like, man, we're going to invest into brilliance?
You know, let me say this because I love where you're going with that. And it really takes me back to some of the things that Sean Good was saying right here on the Morning Update show on Friday. When we think about what it really means to make major investments in things that are preventative, right? To prevent the problems from even occurring. When we think about something like gun violence and we think about, well, what is really the way around this? How do we have solutions around this? It really is investing, making those major investments in exactly what Omari is talking about, what Sean was talking about that day, putting the money into the brilliance. Because when young folks actually are not out there struggling to survive, they are able to thrive in their purpose. As we say every day, go forward in their purpose and humanity. They're able to be exactly who they were here to become. Instead of trying to figure out the next day, the next dollar, the next hustle, the next this and that. When we have thriving communities, and we've seen it before, man, our people were enslaved. They tried to make us do everything possible under the sun. And when people got that opportunity to be like, man, I'm out, I'm free, I'm going to build this farm, I'm going to build this house, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to have a store, I'm going to have a library, I'm going to have education, I'm going to become a doctor. All of those things were happening in our communities. So the ideas around what it means to make those major investments before we even hit the barriers of issues is a beautiful way to be thinking about this.
And a big part of it too is if we could just be left alone.
Yeah.
I mean, because we don't even have to go back. I mean, it's a big example when you talk about Oklahoma City. But the reunion on Union reminded people that the Central District used to be a thriving business district too. All Black-owned businesses. We never had to leave our community. You know what I'm saying? Money stayed in our community. You had Black restaurants, you had Black drugstores, you had Black grocery stores, you had Black doctors, Black clothing right there in the Central District of Seattle. You know, and so what we're talking about right now is not something that's far off. And actually, once this installation is done here, the first installation that we're doing here is really acknowledging the greatness of our past, because I'm like, man, sometimes you got to see it to believe it. And even if seeing it is in photos every day here on the set, people, you know, should be able to see that. And I really want to caution voters that, man, the people, the war on poverty and just putting money out there or whatever, that's been the thing for a long time. You know, we need people who actually can spark these things in our community. We don't need to be laid up on the government and someone tells us that, well, man, we're going to give you this and give you that and give you everything else, and if people can't make investment in our greatness, in our brilliance. And that be the crazy thing is, right, is like, I'll be honest with you as well. Also, the nature of our city, if I could just keep it real here, the nature of our city, you'd be surprised. Like, we getting by over here. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out, $5 family. But you'd be surprised if I was to play into the narrative in a lot of these meetings that I be in, that people assume. Like, people be assuming that it's like, oh, I grew up so poor and black, and I had to overcome so much trial and tribulation just to be able to do some kind of meet. And I be telling people, I was like, man, I had a fantastic childhood in the Central District. No, I wasn't. And they be like, oh, I know it was probably so hard for you, and so this and that. I was like, man, what? But the whole point I'm making is we also live in a city where, when that is your narrative, resources come. Believe me, if I cried here on TV talking, oh man, me and my brothers had to split one bologna sandwich and we was all sleeping on one cot and the cockroach would be like, man, but that's not my reality and that's not my journey. But our city is very open for that story. And so when you got a story of, man, I had a fantastic childhood growing up in the Central District, an amazing place. You know what I'm saying? I get along with everybody and X, Y, and Z. It don't seem that interesting to people.
You know what? That is one of the parts about all of this that really boils down to how narratives have been wielded in this country, right? And this is why us being able to own our narratives is so key, because we have to be able to be truthful and honest about always being around hard workers. Omari was raised that way. I was raised that way. I didn't have no choice, right? When I think about sometimes, people having a choice to be seeping in, the things that are not right for them. I didn't have that choice, man. At the end of the day, I always have to show up and show out every single day. It doesn't matter what I'm going through personally or anything. So this idea of constantly being resilient, of being able to stand on the shoulders of those who have been strong before us, man, that is real. That is so real. And neither one of us have that story. And I know exactly what you mean. People want to try to make what they see in you the narrative that is you, and that's not it at all.
People. I mean, but that's because it's like, in so many of the stories and storytelling, and even in Hollywood and everything else, it's always about the black person who had to overcome all of this and that because the community and the neighborhood is disingenuous. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, it's a lot of hard spots out there. It's a lot of hard stuff to overcome, but there's millions of us every day thriving in our purpose. 117 historically black colleges and universities. We graduate genius every year in this nation. And people will sit here and tell you that government is the answer. Big Mama and them, this is all new. Big Mama and them ain't had no SNAP card.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Big Mama and them ain't had no EBT. They ain't had no rental assistance. They ain't have no internet voucher. They ain't have nothing. You know what I'm saying? But man, I mean, look at the pillar of our community, our elders. And look how much and why we love our elders so much is because they sit there with so much integrity and so much dignity and so much grace. A perfect example. And it's people whose lives was much, much, much harder than ours, who had so much less resource than ours. We have living examples of our greatness every day in front of us. And all we have to do is embrace it. We have examples. We can do this. We cannot allow ourselves to be programmed by the political machine and the media machine out there that tells us that we need them to be able to make it. We've made it on our own in this country from day one.
That's it, brother. That's it right there. And I got to say, one of the days that I spent when I was in Mexico was with some elder white folks who were all Trump supporters, 4 of them. And literally having these kinds of discussions with them, because as John Lewis said, I'm going to make an attempt to understand the other sides. They were trying to understand me. I was trying to understand them. And one of the things that was so highlighting for them was the fact that they literally thought, and was able to be honest with me about it, that in the Black community, we're waiting for a governmental handout. And I said, oh, absolutely not. I said, you are totally wrong about that. I'm around a bunch of people who are thriving in our purpose. I'm around an entire community who is doing work to become their own business owners, working on insulating our economies because we understand that we're all brilliant. And I remember one of them literally said to me, well, Trey, I mean, the way that you're talking, you just can't be that popular in the Black community, because they really had this understanding based on the information that they're digesting, based on the narratives that are being sent to them, based on the news that they're watching, all of this, that is what Black community is looking for, is a handout. And I literally had to explain this to them in a way that they were able to walk away from hanging with me that day, and realize that, man, wait a minute, we've had it wrong this whole time, because really you're saying a lot of the same things we're saying around just us being able to actually have our own investments, invest in ourselves, not be asking for governmental handouts, and to showcase that we need the space and grace to do what we do best.
Listen, then I agree. What people don't understand, and that's funny because you'll talk about somebody on the right or maybe the far right or whatever. And one thing I can say is about Black people is that, man, a lot of times you want the same thing for government to get out the way.
That's right.
You gotta remember here that in our neighborhood, the Central District, House bill was 1918. Yes. They sit there and they talk about it's systemic. It was systemic what happened to us in the Central District because government got in the way. Government came into the Central District and said, how can we disrupt these Negroes? Government got in the way. So that's why we sit here and tell us, it's like, the same government's coming now to save us. After they've sat there systemically came there and destroyed our community. Mm-hmm. And so, man, a lot of people, you'd be surprised. The thing is that poverty keeps a lot of people employed in America. Poverty, the perception of poverty, keeping people poor, or the perception of poverty, it keeps people in jobs and everything else. You see what I'm saying? When you lift people out of poverty, when you give them economic empowerment, a lot of people start losing jobs. 100%. They start losing jobs. We want government to get out of the way. Government's not here to save us. Government's never going to save us. This is the same government that enslaved us. How's this government going to save us? And people need to understand that. This was government. When we look at weed and seed, that was government. When we look at redlining, that was government. When we look at all these laws that was on the books here, even the sundown laws here in Seattle, that was government. This is government, people. And so this is what I'm saying. It's a misconception. It's just now certain people got their hands on the money. And so it's like, we're going to pay you for this, pay you for that. People need to be trying to say, hey, Black folks, here's how we're going to get off the government tip. This is our plan right here to make you fully independent. This is our plan right here for economic drivers and resources. This is our plan right here. You know what? Seattle Promise is good for right now because you know what? You can go to Seattle. You can go to a Seattle college for free. But Black people, let's make a plan. So, 10 years from now, when kids are graduating, you already got money in the bank and send your kids to any college you want to. These are the conversations that we need to be having here. But people are having conversations that just move you from A to B. And from maybe A to C, maybe even the middle of the alphabet. But man, someone can give a clear picture of how can we move away from government dependency. You sit here on $100 million and think that it's manna from heaven. How do we move away from that? How do we move away from these crumbs coming into our community? And because we're not used to actual investment, we think that this is the biggest deal ever. We need to be able to get to a point where we can look government dollars in the face and walk away and go the other direction because we know how to drive economics in our community, support our community, everything else. I mean, it's real, fam.
No.
I mean, we had a whole show lined up here, man. But maybe Marcus Garvey is getting channeled into the studio today.
There we go. I'm all about channeling our folks. And the truth of the matter is that Marcus Garvey would be proud to hear what we're talking about today, because at the end of the day, that really is at the center of his message, at the center of why he was looking and wielding his entire life force toward Black liberation. One of the things I tell my sons right now, in terms of the work that I do out here in community, is that you have to understand we're at a very specific time where the awakening needs to happen within our people to understand and identify themselves as the brilliant people that they actually are. And for me, so much of that is about, all right, we understand we live in a world where money is a part of the world. So how do we wield the resources that we need in order to get away from all of these assistance programs, every single thing that really is keeping us down? You have certain mothers out there, and this is so unfortunate that this is where we're at, that we get so used to something like Section 8, where we're like, oh, wait a minute, I can't take that job. I'm gonna make too much money and they're gonna kick me off Section 8. Or, oh, wait a minute, I only gotta do this many hours so I can keep my housing. Or, you know what, I need to do this so I can stay in alignment with this over here, this other resource. That right there is a defeatist mindset. And when we talk about actually realizing that within us, we can do all the things we need to do. It's not about being equal to some other person like white folks. That's not what it's about. It's about us realizing our brilliance. And to be honest, this is why I love black markets. Man, people ask me where I'm shopping all the time. I am constantly putting money into black vendors' hands because I understand their brilliance. But I also understand that that is an opportunity for them to realize, man, I'm doing something great with myself and I need to continue doing that greatness because there's people like Trey that are going to actually be a patron of my business. To me, that is how we start to move away from so many of these things. It's right here before us. There's a lot of different places where you guys can find black business alerts. You guys can look up and figure out where to shop and how to be in black economies and do it locally first. So like you said, oh, what we had in the Central District was everything right there before us. Now we've been displaced. We've been dispersed. How do we still utilize the technologies that are available to us to actually continue to do that? Fine. I may live in Federal Way, but I'm supporting a bunch of folks that are in South King County, in the city of Seattle. I'm supporting them because I got direct contact with them through this digital platform. There's no reason why those of us who are out there that are looking to do this work and looking to see what it looks like to have our circular economies again, that we can't do that. And I think that's exactly what Marcus Garvey was all about. Now, you're right, man. He's being channeled today for sure.
Just people need to be clear that just because, and it's true, you might have an elected or somebody in office who's doing like great things. Like who's your representative down there?
Yeah, Jesse Johnson.
Jesse Johnson on the ball.
Yeah.
David Hackney down there in Olympia as well. But people need to realize that it's like, man, the government, the state, this is the state. Man, this is our solutions won't come here. When you're going into, they were going into the general election, anybody who's telling you they got a magic wand that includes government this, government that, government this, we need to be leery because, it's a lot of things. It's like, man, where you can go to all this funding for Section 8, but where's the program to get you out of Section 8? Mm-hmm. Where's you see what I'm saying? I mean, man, and we need to bring whatchamacallit back out here, Ada Academy.
Yeah.
And in programs like the Ada Academy, they're sitting there and teaching women how to code, and you going from $50,000 a year to $140,000 a year. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. You see what I'm saying? And that's not government. That's not government. And you'll live a richer, fuller life. Learning a skill, you go from doing whatever to being a coder or being in IT, and you going from making $40,000-$50,000 a year to $150,000 a year. We need to understand that we can believe and achieve and live in that lifestyle. And as long as we're sucked in on government, as long as we're taking government handouts, this glass ceiling is real. It's right there. We'll never rise above it because we've created a comfort zone in our life around government handouts.
Well, you said it earlier, if we actually have thriving communities in Black community and Indigenous community and Latino communities, if we actually had thriving Black communities, it's going to put a lot of people out of business. So the ideas of poverty as business is real. When we talk about the nonprofit industrial complex and we realize that there is a white-led institution or organization that puts Black babies on their brochures to ensure that their, $500 plate dinners for their fundraisers are getting the injection of funding that they need to continue on for 10 more years. This is the kind of stuff that really grinds my gears, right? Because I say to myself, wait a minute, this is what we are in. This is how we're investing money. This is how we're moving a system. This is how you think you're affecting change. No, this is how you've cemented yourself in the system of poverty. And ultimately, you should be ashamed of yourself because you should be working yourself out of a job. But instead, what you have to do is you have to keep the levels at a certain place so that you can keep a position of power, so that you can be getting paid the six figures that you think you're worth. And ultimately, you got to ask yourself, man, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I doing this for the right cause? Am I in the right business? Because for all of you who make money off of poverty, who are sending your children to college because you're ensuring that other families are not able to do so, you should be questioning yourself, man. So I think what you said there is spot on, though.
I mean, it's real. And I mean, the term poverty pimp, the problem is that when people say poverty pimp, they just be thinking about black people. And a lot of times they'll think about some preacher or pastor or something like that. The biggest poverty pimps ain't in our community. The people who are actually making money off of poverty and off of impoverished people, and who are the people who, like our city and our country too, but in our city, it's a lot of people, organizations who are getting money to be enablers.
Yeah, that's right.
You see what I'm saying? They make the path of enablement comfortable. And that's where a lot of resources go. And that's where a lot of resources go as far as people living in poverty. And that's where some resources go on people living in homelessness as well. Yes. You know what I'm saying? The enablers get the bag. And usually the enablers are very good at their marketing and at their communicate. Man, we just got to be able to help these, this and that. And it's nothing to sit in there saying, how do we change fundamentally and sustainably change the life conditions of black people? How do we lift black people out of a state of poverty? How do we sit there and be committed? One thing nobody talked about really that I saw in this last year is it's real simple. That Seattle Times graph that says that a black household makes $42,500 a year. A white household makes $105,000 a year. I'm happy the white folks is making $105,000, but we here at 42.5. It's real simple. What's the plan to move the needle? And those are the conversations that we don't hear, because you know what? A lot of conversation goes to services, human services. And that's important. But where is the conversation that says, hey, you know what? Black people today, a black households at $42,500 a year. What is our fundamental plan to incrementally and sustainably move the income of black households in Seattle? Who's having that conversation? You know what I'm saying? Home ownership in King County in constant decline. Home ownership equals generational wealth. Who out here is having this conversation to say, how do we reverse this? How do we get black ownership on the rise? Where is the sense of urgency about that? We've seen some change. We talk about Seattle public schools. We'll see what the good doctor does over there. But, that education gap in Seattle public schools, how do we push that? And I will say that Director Chappelle, these guys are doing their part from the kids who graduate. They're trying to get them into college. But you see what I'm saying? These things are black and white. We sit here and we get fooled by all this spin cycle, spitterage, and hobble bobble that's coming out of all these people's mouths that are running for office. But it's real clear. How do we move it from $42,500 a year for a household? How do we move the needle? These are the conversations. And believe me, someone just giving programs money, and those programs need resources. They're doing their thing, but not addressing. You see what I'm saying? People are addressing end results. They're addressing end results. This out there. Somebody very well might be out there doing something they shouldn't do because of the economic environment that they're living here in the city. How do we work to change the economic life that people are living in Seattle? And no one is serious. Where's the serious conversation about that?
You know what? This is exactly right. I mean, when we talk about what it looks like from a perspective of community rooted solutions, we say this a lot, but what that really means is that those who are the most affected by these outcomes are the ones that are driving the innovation in terms of solution oriented models. And there's not enough work being done on that regard. There's not enough people. And I think you're absolutely right. Nobody this entire election cycle was talking about what it really looks like to have these economic values really elevated, particularly in Black communities. And when you look at data, and if you look at any kind of power mapping, it'll show you that when you invest and do the right things to have preventative measures, that means ensuring that people are well cared for. You hear people talking about treating the whole person. This is exactly what we're talking about. We need that to be happening so that that foundation around equity is really at the core of it all, and it uplifts equity for everybody. If you focus on Black communities, you will see that that's what it showcases. So what you're talking about, is so true, and it's so clairvoyant for us who are on this side of it. The funny thing about it is that once again, the reason why people weren't talking about it is because ultimately it means that some of the people that may have supported their campaign will work themselves out of a job, that some of the people that are over here that they are hobnobbing with and having cocktails with at cocktail hour are going to be out of their jobs, that it means that then the power balance shifts. And all of this, we could talk about it in terms of money, but it's really about power, because at the end of the day, those who think they have the power and are wielding these kinds of solutions that are keeping folks in poverty states, those are the ones that are not really willing to relinquish that power and to make sure that the power dynamic of what we're dealing with in our society is shifting so that now the real rooted solutions are taking root and they are growing, they're sprouting up, and that now they can say, you know what, I'm no longer necessary. But the problem is that with that power dynamic, they want to continue to be necessary, and for me, I see a lot of this as power.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that all money ain't good money, and people have been able to maintain power in our community. They got a few people that were standing up and doing the Bojangle dance when Weed and Seed came in. Hey, Negroes, this is good for us. You know what I'm saying? We gonna do Weed and Seed. There's always somebody. You know what I'm saying? Man, all money ain't good money, especially when it comes to us and our people and everything else. It's something I want to continue to remind everybody here in this city, all 7 districts, and especially D2 and D3, is you have 3 council members. And when you go into these elections, you need to remember what your current council members did. In District 3 is Sawant and Morales, and 2, they're not up for election. But Mosqueda is also your council representative. So is Gonzalez, because they're citywide. So if you live in D2 and D3, you need to make sure and check that Mosqueda been showing up for your issues, that Gonzalez been showing up for your issues. You know what I'm saying? I was out there in D2, and I'm talking to them about gun violence and everything else. You've been hearing from your electeds? Nah, not really. Every district in Seattle has 3 representatives, and that's a perfect thing. If not one's answering your call the other one and call the other one. But just remember, Gonzalez and Mosqueda are also accountable in these districts because they have citywide seats.
Yeah, you know what? Let's put it out there, because the truth of the matter is that the more informed we are and the more engaged we are, that really is the power right there. You have to wield it, y'all. Not just caring about it and talking about it with your friends and family, but actually holding these guys accountable at the end of the day. We talk about it all the time, but it's something that I agree with 100%, man.
Man, it's no excuses season.
No excuses at all.
It's no excuses season. None. For real. You know what I'm saying? So people who think that your strategy is just to pander to the Negroes and come with a few little programs for this and that, man, it's no excuses. And somebody else we channeling, you know what I'm saying? We channeling the spirit of William Gross, who right 2 blocks away from here at a hotel and everything else. Let me tell you, put me in the camera, Cuddy. Let me tell you something and be clear. For people in the city of Seattle and the state of Washington, Black people didn't come out here begging. We came out here buying. You look at the history of Black people, the very early Black people who was out here, they was bosses. You know what I'm saying? People like William Gross, all this industry sitting here downtown, Territorial Governor Ivic Stevens, met William Grossman, was like, man, you got to come up to Washington State. You need to live here in Seattle. You see what I'm saying? We didn't come here begging. We didn't come here asking the government for shit. You know what I'm saying? The black people who came out here to Seattle and to the territory of Washington were bosses, big property owners, landowners, industrious. It's not in our history. It's not in our DNA in this city and in this state to be beggars. It's not in our lived history as black people here in the city of Seattle to beg. We didn't come here begging. Henry Gross bought 12 acres of land from William Gross bought 12 acres of land from Henry Yesler, and that's where the Central District is right now. He didn't go begging to Yesler. Oh man, Mr. Yesler, please just give us a little bit of land for some black folks. He came and dropped the bag like, I'll take that. And that's where the Central District started. Don't you ever sit here and get into believing that we came out here as beggars. Black people came out here industrious, entrepreneurs. It's real talk, man.
I love it, man. I love it, man. I don't even know what else to say because the truth is the truth at the end of the day. You know what? That really is the brilliance that we come from. And when I am always encouraging folks to see themselves as a part of the solution, this is why. Because ultimately, we have always seen ourselves as a part of the solution. We didn't ask nobody to hand us solutions. We said, you know what? Here's a leak. I'm going to fix it. Here's a hole. I'm going to plug it. Here's a vent and some air's coming through. I'm going to change it. I'm going to fix it. That's what we've always done. We've been about that work. And ultimately, it's one of those things that we have to revive all the time, y'all. Now is the time. If there ain't no other time, now is the time to remember that message right there. We didn't come out here as beggars. We came out here as buyers. I love it. Hashtag that.
We ain't begging, we buying. We're going to take a quick break right now. The Morning Update Show continues.
Hey guys, it's Besa Gordon from Converge Media. You can catch me on my show Rewind with Besa, which airs every other Saturday at 2 p.m. anywhere you watch Converge Media. Now, I know a lot of us still have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. However, here are a couple things you don't have to question. Everyone 12 years and older in Washington State are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. It's free and you don't even need insurance or citizenship status to get vaccinated. If you still have questions, and I know you probably do, you can visit kingcounty.gov/COVID for additional information. You can also call the King County COVID-19 call center at 206-477-3977 to get COVID-19 and the vaccination questions answered, get translation services if needed, set up an in-home vaccination appointment for yourself or someone you know may not be comfortable at a vaccination site due to a disability, anxiety, or other reasons. Look, with summer being here, now is the time to get all your COVID-19 vaccination questions answered so we can all get out the house and live our best lives again.
Market Street Shoes, slinging kicks since 2006 with styles that support you and yours, getting the F outside or staying comfy when you just want to lounge indoors as well. But wait, Market Street Shoes is way more than just a shoe store. Gear up for your next outdoor adventure with apparel and accessories that'll have you looking good on the streets, the trail, or even in your own backyard. With locations in Ballard, Redmond, and online at marketstreetshoes.com, there's undoubtedly a style and size that'll fit your lifestyle.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. You know, Trey, this is something we definitely got to get in here today. I talked to Donita Sinclair yesterday, and man, she told me that Rainier and Dearborn, they had one of the utility boxes. She had a mural made of her son, Lorenzo Anderson Jr., who was killed right there, right next to the CHOP back on the evening of Juneteenth last year. I guess it was actually June 20th. And they painted a mural there on the box, and then the mural got keyed. Our monitor's off here, Curtis, so I can't tell if you've put it up yet or not. Yeah. Okay, so if you could put it up one more time, you'll see there that on the left is the day that the mural was painted, families are all there, and on the right, you'll see that somebody keyed it up, and now it's been totally removed. And so, Lorenzo's mom, like I said, talked to her yesterday, and I mean, it's really infected her,
Of course it did. I mean, first of all, there was already, no real heartfelt, genuine response from any of the elected officials toward Donita. And she talked about this and said that, honestly, there was this was during the chop. So ultimately, there was a feeling that she felt was coming from elected officials and folks that are in certain positions at the city level. And then for this to transpire, you know what? At the end of the day, man, this is something as a mother, I can only imagine how she's feeling right now, man. It's just really messed up to hear this, because you had folks that were really just trying to pay homage to Lorenzo Anderson Jr., to his life, to him being a positive person out here in community. And, I love that we were able to at least showcase from some of the people that knew him best and loved him. He had teachers. They were talking about his energy coming into the school. They talked about, his aspirations, having just graduated, all of those things. He was on his way to, really embarking upon this world and beginning to live in his purpose. So, Donita, my love to you, sis, because honestly, this is not something that you ever deserved, man. That was really a beautiful way to pay homage to Lorenzo, and for it to get keyed up and removed, I'm just sending you love.
Yeah. And the whole thing is clearly it's impactful. We're all linked. You know what I'm saying? With us, me and Jake, who's around here somewhere, even being there that night. Anytime the conversation turns to Lorenzo Anderson Jr., it's always a bit more. But I just think that, it's important that, especially these victims and the families of victims of these violent crimes, these gun crimes, that, man, we need to be able to leave space and grace for humanity. That's not all right. Let this young man have his humanity in death. Let him have his dignity. Clearly his life has already been stolen from him, and it's important that, and that's the thing I think it's important for us to converge as well, is that a lot of times, people, especially when it's in the Black community, we disregard people's humanity, and their dignity is disregarded. But it's not going to be disregarded here. Sending you a lot of love, Donita. We talked about some other things too that she wants to do. She wants to be able to, have a safe place for young people. A lot of things that she wants to do on gun violence disruption. So, we're here for you. I guess we got time for one or two other clips. So, we got to get Curtis in here. But before we do that, I got to get some more promo for my new show, for my Off the Clock with Big O. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I got a clip here from me and you from our interview. And I asked you what's going on in community.
Well, it's important, man, for us to stay engaged in this process. One of the things that you and I have talked about plenty of times is following the money, right? I mean, when we talk about the city and the county pledging millions of dollars to these issues, let's really figure out where it's going. And so there's opportunities for folks to get engaged. When we talk about what equity means from an equity standpoint and lens, you have to understand it needs to be infused in everything, because it's not inherently built into anything. So the ideas of what reimagining looks like at every level is happening right now. Someone said to me once, we're in a time right now where we probably won't get this time again for 50 or 60 years. And we have to think about the progress that we can make right now in terms of identifying exactly where those investments need to go, how they need to be wielded, how we're innovating the systems that allow those injections of funds to come into our community. So you have such a amalgamation, or a smorgasbord, I love to say, of things that are all happening at the same time. And that's why my constant message is for folks to see themselves as a part of the solution, because right now literally, Omari, there is a bunch of solutions that are being formed, that are being idealized, that are being actualized, and that are being executed on. And I think that for us in the Black community, we have to be the ones really leading those efforts. When we do studies, if you look at data, it'll show you that when everybody is investing in Black equity and into Black liberation, everyone else benefits. So there's a lot of great stuff happening right now in health equity, around education, around these investments, new legislation and policy, working with state representatives to identify the gaps, and then finding innovative solutions to fill those gaps. So, there's plenty of campaigns. Folks can just click a couple buttons, send some emails to their elected officials, and if that's how they want to see themselves as part of the solution, we've made it easy in this technology era.
Look at you. You look really good too.
Hey, it's crispy up in here, man. It was looking fantastic. And honestly, being able to sit down and chop it up with you, because we're always, doing this and we never get the chance to do that. And so it meant a lot to me to be called up on my Sunday and say, hey, let's get off the clock. I loved it, man. And really, those solutions are out there. There is campaigns. Folks can click on buttons. Folks can be a part of all of this. We need everybody engaged at this point, man. It's exactly what we're talking about earlier today. Really fits the show.
It's real. And hey, look, I put that no excuses on myself too. I'm like, man, we got this space. We got these cameras, these lights, this sound. Let's go. No excuses. Let's push it. We got to push it every day. So another thing that we got there, and it looks like we're gonna go overtime, probably like 2 minutes here, but this is important because we said we want to support our young people, and especially a young person in-house. Curtis Delgado has this Sleepless in Seattle event that's on September 5th out there at Seward Park. And man, it's an event really geared towards like creative industry. So you got artists and recording artists, visual artists. There's some art installations. I'm all about the food.
There's definitely food. Yeah, definitely food.
The food and the cold drinks. But
I'm all about the clothes. I'm glad they're gonna be out there too.
Yeah, well, we know you all about the clothes. But so we recorded this because Curtis is behind the desk directing the show. So we had a clip and asked him to tell us a little bit more about Sleepless. So now you've broken down kind of like the high level view of what Sleepless in Seattle is all about. Mm-hmm. But go a little bit deeper as far as like the artists. You talking about vendors going to be there. Mm-hmm. What's the day in a life experience going to be like?
I know I don't want to give up too much before we actually get to the day of the show, but some of the artists that you can expect there is PMO Showtime, Steegy, Richie Floss representing the 206 AM crew. And as far as vendors, you got Filthy Clothing Co., you got Cloud9, even Auntie Jewel. And then as far as Cloud9, she even expanded her industry and went into drinks. So you got Cloud9 Cold Drinks, Po' Boy and Tings, making sure you got your Creole food going on. So it's going to be a fun environment, just music, food, and just friendship and a great time.
And how do people follow you or follow the event on social media?
All right, so you can follow us at Sleepless in Seattle Festival on Instagram, and that's the same platform for all, same tag for all platforms. So Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, you can follow that Sleepless in Seattle Festival.
Oh man, shout out to Curtis Cuddy Delgado. You know what? The thing of it is that you're right, Omari. I mean, anytime that we can support our young folks doing great things out there, we want to make sure we make that happen. And as soon as Curtis told me about Sleepless in Seattle, I said, oh, like the movie? Curtis said, what movie?
We ain't going to be able to help you on no legal issues.
I felt old at that moment, man. Curtis didn't even know nothing about the actual movie Sleepless in Seattle. He said, that just came to me one day. So really, I love this. I love the fact that, again, here this young person has an idea and said, I'm going to make this happen. And I love that we can support it here.
You're going to do it. He made his own handcrafted motion graphic. Did you already put it up there?
I played it.
Right. You already played it. So let me throw this out there. There's probably a link in the comments as well. And this is a free event, right, Curtis?
Yes, sir.
Look at that free event. It's an ambitious young man. He's out throwing it. We're overtime, Trey Holiday. Any last words before we get out of here?
You guys know me, man. See yourself as part of the solution. Clearly, Marcus Garvey did, and he sparked something in us today that was so beautiful and unedited and so authentic. That's what I love about being here with you, on the Morning Update Show, is that we're seeing ourselves as part of the solution every single day right here in these seats. And, Converge is seeing itself as a part of the solution by investing in young people, giving young people opportunity to thrive in their purpose right here. And I just encourage you guys. You guys are supporters out there of Converge and of the Morning Update Show. And we are an example of what seeing ourselves as a part of the solution looks like. So I hope you guys are always inspired every day that we pull this production together for y'all, for you guys to think about how you can see yourself as part of the solution as well.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. I'm glad that we're independent, Black-owned media. And so if we decided to go on a deviate, there's a whole long list of items here today. But if we decided to go on a 30, 40-minute conversation about Black economic development, then guess what? It's okay. We ain't got no boss man we got to go and bow down to or send an apology. When it's important to discuss it, we're just going to discuss it. And that's what it is. So tomorrow, big day tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got Nikita Oliver. They are going to be right here and talking to Nikita about quite a few things. So excited for Nikita Oliver tomorrow. Any other program notes, Mr. Delgado? Looks like we're good to go. All right. And also, we've got Besa tomorrow too. Yeah, so Besa will be joining us tomorrow as well. All right, everybody. Well, it's been a good one, and thank you. We're a bit over time, so we're going to get out of here. So as usual, I want to remind you to go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.